Now boarding VIPs, first class, business class. VIP, that's me.
Boarding them planes. We must have a pilot on today.
Yes,
Our guest is a pilot.
yes.
You know, I wanted to be a pilot.
Did you?
Well, not really be a pilot, but I wanted to fly. That's like on my bucket list.
Really?
So I can learn how to fly today.
I don't know if you can learn how to fly, but we're going to talk about it.
Okay, well, that's what I like about your show, Veronica. The guests you put on, I get to learn so much educational, and it helps me grow.
You stopped growing a long time ago.
Can't wait for the show.
Can't wait for the show. Well, stick around because the show's about to start.
Our guest today is a retired Air Force pilot.
You don't say.
Yeah, and I'm excited because I always wanted to fly.
Did you?
Not only did he fly in the Air Force, he went on to be a private pilot and then opened up his own multi-entertainment company.
So you think you can fly?
I'm going to fly one day. It's on my bucket list.
Really?
Our guest today, everyone, is Mr. Derek White. Hey, Derek, how you doing?
Pretty good. How are you guys doing?
Okay.
Doing well.
All right. Thanks for having me on the show.
No problem. Anytime. So, you got your private pilot certificate or license, as they like to say, back in 1998?
Yes, that was right when I was actually in the middle of college. My love and passion I've always had a love and passion for aviation, and actually started when I was about 8 or 9 years old. I was about third grade. I was on my way to Florida, first time flying commercial airlines by myself, right? And flight attendant came up to me and asked, "Hey, do you want to go see the cockpit?"
Oh, is that where they give you the little wings?
Yeah, that's when you get the wings.
We did that too.
Yeah. And I still have
Yeah.
my, it was Delta Airlines. I still actually
Okay.
have my wings today.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. So I didn't know what she was talking about, and I was like, yeah, sure, you know. So she started heading me up to the front of the airplane, and then I'm kind of looking like, where are we going? And then as she opens the door, and when I walk in, I see these two pilots sitting, and all these like gauges and buttons and knobs. And then when I look out the window, I just see us flying through clouds. And that's when I said, I want to do this. And after that, I had it. I was hooked. And that was in third grade. And then actually my father, he used to have, I don't know if y'all remember the old Microsoft flight simulators that was like out for computers. It's like back in the day. And he was actually into flying too. So he used to fly, bought the little Microsoft flight simulators, and he would let me go and fly it. So it kept my aspirations and love for aviation like just true to heart, right? And I just built on that over the years. And you have to remember though, this is like we're talking like in the 1980s, right? So there are no black pilots. I didn't have any mentors. I still, as much as I loved aviation, I didn't know what it would take to be a pilot, right? And I think that's important because I wasn't an A student. You know, I wasn't like, I wasn't like on honor roll. I was an average student, which, my father was a little upset with. But that was significant because I didn't know later on in life that would catch up to me when it was time for me, like when I really realized like it was obtainable for me to become a pilot and I could actually do this, what it would take for me to get involved in flying because of, I was kind of behind in the math and the sciences that is, prevalent, critical to flying airplanes, right?
Those STEM
The STEM programs.
Right.
I mean, it's a real deal when you're flying. So it caused some issues that I still think about today. Like, man, if I had just applied myself here, where would I be now?
Right. But you didn't let it stop you.
I didn't. But it did slow me down because I kind of went away from the path of being a pilot for a couple of times down my track, which is why my degree is in communications. It's not in aviation, which is cool though. I mean, everything has, I think, a rhyme and a reason. It wasn't until when I finally got to college that I met a good friend of mine, who's a good friend of mine today. She was actually the first black aspiring female pilot. And she flies for United Airlines today. She flies like a 777.
Oh.
It's pretty awesome. But meeting her actually reconnected me to, okay, well, wow, she's doing this, then maybe I can. And so with that in mind, I started thinking about, okay, can I become a pilot? Can this happen? You know, it was a lot of back and forths. I didn't know about all the organizations and that kind of thing. Like, right, like today we have Tuskegee Airmen, we have the Organization for Black Aviation Professionals. You know, there are flying programs for minority students to help them get them into the semester.
Well, let's back up for a little bit. 'Cause
Okay.
Let's take it through the steps.
Okay.
So first of all, where are you from?
All right, so originally I'm from Chi-Town,
Okay,
Chicago for
Chicago.
PBI.
South side?
South side.
All right,
like true
South-
yeah,
okay,
right.
South
Not
side.
from Joliet, like
Okay.
from South side.
South side Chicago.
Yes.
Now, where did you go to college?
I went to the University of Illinois at Chicago.
Okay,
Yeah.
at Chicago. And you said, so you got your pilot's license in 1998, okay, and you are a retired captain in the United States Air Force Reserve. Okay, and while you were in the Air Force Reserve, you became a flight engineer.
Correct.
Correct.
So I'm sorry, you graduated college and then went into the.
So I actually joined the Air Force like in 1993.
So you
right?
actually joined the regular
The
Air Force.
Air National Guard. It was
Okay,
the
Air National Guard, okay.
A little confusing because a lot of people don't know there's the Air National Guard and then there's Air Force Reserve. At the end of the day, it's all the Air Force, right?
Okay.
But they have their different meanings, but we don't
Okay.
get all into that.
Okay.
So I joined the Air National Guard in '93
Okay.
to help actually pay for my college.
All right.
You know, and
Hey,
that was right.
do what you
Got a
do.
4-year scholarship tuition.
Okay.
And that's when I became an aircraft mechanic or crew chief. Now all of these steps, like real right, are still helping me to in the aviation world, like trying to build my whole aviation thing up. And so I became a crew chief, and I was a crew chief on like Boeing 707s, right? They're called like refueling tankers for the Air Force. And it was great because it allowed me to I got my own name on the plane, and it allowed me to fly around the world
All right.
and work on airplanes. So that was really beneficial. I got to travel at a young age. Well, there's my name on the plane right there. That's
Okay,
me.
so DY.
Yeah, DY,
All right,
yeah,
and that's
yeah.
a 707.
That's a 707. They call it a KC-135.
Okay.
Yeah.
And those planes actually do what?
And so those planes actually refuel other planes while in flight.
Well, in flight. Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
So it has a big boom on the back of it,
Uh-huh.
and it drops down and actually hooks up to everything from.
So if a plane is flying from, say, like where to where?
So if a plane is, let's say another airplane is flying, has to do an extended flight, right? Like maybe needs to fly from here to over to Japan.
Okay.
All right. So some airplanes can't make it that
Right.
long a distance,
Right.
but they need to get there,
Right.
right? Time is crucial.
Is that the essence?
So then we'll have a plane like this. We'll find an in-between point,
Right.
like somewhere like over like the Pacific Ocean, let's
Okay.
say, and it'll meet up with them.
Right. Because there's no place to land.
There's no place to land.
Right.
Hook up, refuel,
Fuel it.
and then keep it moving.
Okay. And okay. All right. So you.
So,
okay,
so
cool.
my job was I was responsible for this airplane.
Right, and it says Chicago on it.
And in Chicago,
Yay, all right.
that was the bird.
And that was you, and you did that.
That I did that.
Okay, cool. So you did that for how long?
So I did that for about 8 years. Now, right at the back end of this is actually, like I'm also in college,
Okay.
right? So about 1996 is actually when I start like working on my pilot's license.
Okay.
Like, I've met my friend Nia now. She's gotten me back into like, okay, I realize I can do this. So I start getting more proactive, more aggressive with, all right, let me see what I can do with flying. I'm already working on my communications degree, so that's all said and done. And so from there, I actually found the Tuskegee Airmen, and we had there's an organization, a chapter in Chicago. It's called the Chicago Dodo chapter. Chapters all over the country. And it was there that I met a gentleman who was who was a consultant with the Chicago Board of Education. Now there's another piece of this that I didn't mention. So growing up with my aspiring like aviation desires, I was also in the Silver Air Patrol.
Yay! I was too.
You were in Silver Air Patrol?
Yeah, and so
Really?
was my mom.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she
That's
was.
what's up.
She became a major, and she was actually commander at
Oh,
Bowling
man.
Air Force Base.
Okay.
Yeah, she
Oh, so
won.
you've been around.
Yes, she won. We were. She was squadron. Yes,
Silver Air Patrol.
Yes,
Woo-hoo.
she was. We were oh my gosh, we were Squadron of the Year.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Whoa. Well, where's this at?
At Bowling Air Force Base.
Okay, so
She was
y'all
Squadron
there.
of the Year.
Nice,
She
nice.
was Major. She was she made it all the way to Major.
Oh man. So all right. So you know all about this.
Yes.
All right, we're gonna have to have a conversation.
Oh
about
my
this.
God! But okay, yes. You didn't accept. Hold on. Okay. Well, because I don't want to cut you off, but we are up against the break. We are going to stop right now because I'm sure at this time were you getting promoted because you retired as a captain, right?
Yeah, I retired as Air Force captain.
Okay.
Yeah, that's still a little bit later down the
Okay,
road.
all right.
Yeah.
So we're gonna stop because I don't. Yes, mommy wasn't made. She was Squadron of the Year, man. Mommy did it up. Yes. Okay.
What's up?
All right, but we're talking about you now. We ain't
Yeah,
talking
all
about
right,
mommy.
that's cool,
All right,
that's
so
cool.
we're gonna stop and we're gonna take a break and we will be right back.
It's a short ride from your neighborhood to your naturehood. To find a neighborhood park or green space near you, visit discovertheforest.org.
Do you want to retire like a champ? Just like legendary basketball star Uncle Drew?
Don't do him like that, Uncle Drew.
You're already acing the game. You've got your dream ride.
Don't be slamming my door. Sorry about that. You just did the same. Gotta get the boys.
Your dream vacation, and your dream team. And now you can make your retirement just as legendary.
I get buckets.
Get the tips you need to get on track at aceyourretirement.org.
And we're back. Yeah, okay, so we're what, Greg?
And y'all got excited about Civil Air Patrol, but I need to find out the steps to how to become a pilot. So is the best way to become a pilot is for me to join the Air Force or the Reserve?
Wow. There's
How do I
a
go
lot
about
of
it?
different ways you can become a pilot. Now, if you're not early enough in life, I don't know how old you are. I don't want to call you out. So, but you have to be a certain age to start that young in the Air Force. But the Air Force isn't the only way you can become a pilot. If you're just looking to fly, you can go to find your local airport. Most of them have flight schools, and you can just go and start training. They even have introductory flights. Usually, they're like $45, $50, and they'll take you up.
It's about
But,
getting the requisite number of hours.
It's about getting the hours and the time.
Now,
and
is
flying.
there some kind of, because I know like the astronauts, you flying really fast, they got to prepare like physically, get your body ready to fly. Is there any kind of preparation needed?
G-forces.
So now,
prepare?
so you're going to a whole other level, yes,
Okay.
for astronaut training. Much like you have to be a pilot. Well, no, I take that back. To fly as an astronaut, as a pilot, yeah, obviously you need flight training, and there's a very rigorous program that you go through, whether you're through NASA, if you're interested in being an astronaut, and it's very physically challenging, mentally challenging, and there are a lot of things that you do as a pilot that you would also go through as becoming an astronaut, but you have to also have your vision has to be good. There, you still to fly, you got to be 20/20, pretty much uncorrected, to fly. They don't have the NASA shuttle anymore, but when they had that program, that was one of the key requisites you needed, prerequisites.
But back to you, you said you met the Chicago Board of Ed, and that's how you got to where you were.
Yeah, so I got in with a gentleman who worked as a contractor with the Chicago Board of Ed. He had a nonprofit called the Chicago Youth and Aviation Project. And he was looking for, which is why originally I brought up the Silver Air Patrol, he was looking for someone who had been through the Silver Air Patrol program. He needed a squadron commander because we joined up with the Chicago Board of Education to bring Silver Air Patrol into the school systems for the high schools and middle schools, right? And in return, he would pay for my pilot's license. So, which was great because it costs about $5,000-$6,000.
Oh wow.
To fly, right? To get your pilot's license. Some people can do it in a little less. It depends. But today, flying is becoming obviously a lot more expensive. So
If you got a license, that means you can fly any kind of plane?
no, that's a great question. When you get your license, you can fly a specific type of air. You start off with a specific type of airplane, and it depends on what you're training. You can train in anything, but like for right now, I can fly a single engine airplane, and I can fly a single engine airplane that's high performance, right? The higher the engine, that kind of thing.
Like a G4?
Retracting. No, not a G4 yet. That's a multi-engine. That's still on my bucket list.
Okay.
That will happen. I'm not done with that. Because that's my favorite plane actually. G4, G5s. I love those. Are my.
So
favorite.
like if you could fly something like that, then you could like be hired by some like multi-billionaire
Yes,
person,
you could.
like Diddy.
yeah, you could. In fact, there's a gentleman. I always tell people, you're never too young to learn. There's a gentleman I read in an article. He was 50 years old when he started flying. Started flying from ground zero.
Oh wow.
And now, he's flying multi-engine. He has his own airplane, and he flies. He has his own jet. Now, granted, he has money, but still, the possibility is there, right? It's not. There's no criteria on what age you are, as long as you can pass your medical certificate, which is something you need, like to fly. They have different classes of medical certificates you need. Then you can go ahead, jump in the airplane, and go your merry way.
That could be a part-time job for you.
And it's great.
Fly
Yeah.
to rich and famous.
I'm rich and famous. I'm fly me.
Oh, well, it
And
is
that's
that.
what I'm about. That's why I love flying.
Yeah.
It opens up so many doors when you're able to fly, especially having my own airplane. I had gotten the keys that I told you that my boss at the time gave me. It was to this Grumman Cheetah, and it was a cool looking airplane, right? And it allowed me. There it is, right there.
Oh wow.
So that was my
That
airplane.
is a cheetah.
Yep, November 130 Golf Whiskey.
All right.
Yep, that was my bird. So anywhere I went, I got all kind of looks.
I'm
It
sure.
was like, whoa, look at that. But there's something even more important that I just thought of. It is so important, I think, to get more, especially minorities, into flying. To this day, when I fly to an airport, I'll get out the airplane, and as I'm like walking to the building or whatnot, people will turn and they'll look, and then they'll be looking around me, and I'll be like, "What are they looking at?" And I realized they're looking for the other pilot. Like, did he fly the plane? And one guy asked me, "Did you fly?" Yeah, that's me. You're a pilot? Yes, I'm a pilot.
Is it hard to learn how to fly?
I don't think so.
Like, do you really? I've always been kind of scared of math. Like, I found, like when I was young, I found math difficult. As I've gotten older, math has become a little bit easier for me. But is it very intimidating if you aren't good at math? Like, I've never considered myself to be good in math.
So I think I'm the perfect example. I was terrible.
Like
at
they
word
joke in my
problems.
house about how
Yeah.
bad I am in math.
Now I was decent in certain math elements, right? But I had to work at it.
Yeah, like
It
I'm good
wasn't
in
easy.
geometry, but algebra, oh my God, forget about it.
Right. So I'm the same way. Like, basic math, yeah, that's fine. It was good. But my father, he was an accountant, right? And so like he had math, he'd do it all day and all night. But I wasn't that way. I didn't get that gene. So when it came to learning, I really had to work hard at it. And then eventually I got it, especially word problems. I hated word problems. Like, remember the old word problems? They'd be like, well, a train
If a
left
train leaves at San
Francisco
Francisco,
right at 33
I'm like,
miles
it'll get
an
there
hour.
when
and
it
then-
gets there.
Yeah, right? And like, well, how fast will the other train be if the second
Hence,
train?
I'm never on time.
Right. And I hated those questions. But I find myself in flying, we do that every day. And it actually got easier for me because the relationship was there. So, flying now, if you said, oh yeah, well, a plane takes off at, JFK at 3:00 and, burning, flying at, 150 knots and, yada, yada, yada.
Now, physics I can do.
You can do physics?
Yeah,
You
but I
can?
never took trig. But the physics I can do.
So you understand theory of aerodynamics?
Yeah.
All right, that's all.
Force and thrust and stuff like that. I can do that.
Oh, okay. Then you're already there. The 40 F 40. All right, now look at you. So you can do it. You can do it. I tell people you can work at it. If I can do it, I think anybody can do it. And don't get me wrong, I take my flying very seriously. I had to work at it, but I did, and it's great. It's a wonderful part of my life.
So you're saying, you say they're looking for another pilot because they don't think you need more minorities in it. About like, is it a very, very, very small percentage? You think? Like,
I think the percentage today is growing, Like I know a lot of minority pilots, but it's still less than 10% in the overall picture of pilots that are out there. You know, minority
You mean
pilots.
private as well as
Private
commercial?
as well as commercial. You know, like I know a lot of commercial airline pilots, but to this day, when I get on an airplane, I don't ever see a minority pilot.
I know I saw something recently in the news where it was an all female, African American female crew recently. And, you know, that was historically made. But we're up against the break, so we're going to take another one. And when we come back, we're going to see some of the tools that you use when you fly. So I think that's going to be pretty interesting. We're going to learn some tools of the trade.
Yeah, I need to see that.
You see tools of trade?
see that.
I think I might have found my new part-time job. I'm flying to Rich and Famous.
You can fly me then.
All right, then. We'll be right back.
Hey, you.
Yeah, you. Getting that college education, what are you gonna do? Graduate and take some office job? Be like everybody else?
Or will you dare do something different?
Like, be a teacher. You could be my teacher. You got the skills.
The smarts?
Yes, you. You could be the teacher I never forget.
That'd be cool.
Does that corporate job even have recess? What are you gonna make of yourself?
What are you gonna make of me?
Selfie. Nailed it.
And we're back. And we have Derek White here, and he's brought all these lovely instruments here, and he's going to tell us what each one of these things do. And Gregory,
I'm ready for takeoff.
you ready for
You are
takeoff,
ready
right?
for takeoff.
I see you got you glasses and okay, I'm gonna Greg, you just go on right ahead with that. You go right. Greg, I don't know what to say.
I always hear Mayday, Mayday. So Derek,
All
this
right.
map looks very, very complicated. I guess this where you was talking about all the math and things like that's involved.
Yeah, so there's quite a bit of information you can find on when on navigational charts and maps, right? We use this is where the math is involved, especially let's say, for example,
Cartography.
These instruments here.
instruments. We use those to both like measure wind distances, you know, how much wind corrections when we're flying, right?
Well, you know what? First of all, let's take this in a logical, methodical method.
I like methodical.
Yes, let's slow that. Let's take process. Okay. So first of all, what do we have here?
Okay, so this is a transceiver.
Okay.
I
I thought it's a walkie-talkie.
Some people look at it as a walkie-talkie, and normally you would think so, but this allows me to talk to other airplanes while in the air, as well as if I'm on the ground, talk to other airplanes.
Sort of like a CB.
It's kind of like a CB radio, but for the air.
But for the air, right.
You know, and what's important about this is in emergencies, like I might keep this on me. So we have radios on the airplane that we use, right? But what happens if, in case of an emergency, you lose power on the aircraft, right? Well, then how can you talk to the tower or to airports? Well, this still allows me to do that. So it's a backup, you know, to allow me to be able to talk to other airplanes while in the air or on the ground. Yeah, so this is a great, and it does something else too. Without getting all into the in-depth and technical, but this also allows me, tells me the direction that I'm flying. You know, which really gets important in math, right? So then,
Almost like a compass?
it's like exactly. It tells me what direction or degree that I'm heading, or that if I want to head, I
So
can.
when there's no visibility.
You can use it as such, yes. You can, yeah, you definitely can use it as such. Let's say I can turn to a frequency that's on that map, and then using this radio, I can fly to that frequency. Does that make sense? Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, so.
Now what about
good.
these papers?
Okay, so these are just as an example, like I fly out of Fort Meade at Tipton Airport, which is just up in North Maryland, and so we use these to keep track of important numbers, our airspeeds, right? How much fuel we have on board, and how from point A to point B, what type of fuel am I burning or using, both as I'm climbing, as I'm descending, as I'm in cruise altitude, and that's really important because when you're flying, it's really critical for you to keep an idea of how much fuel you're using based on the weather elements, right?
Now you said the type of fuel that you're using. What type of fuel does your plane use?
So
Like,
all right.
you don't use diesel.
So you got
premium,
two major type of fuels. You have what's called avgas, which is what I use, but then you have jet fuel too. They call it Jet A, but fuels in itself, all right, where math comes in, fuels when you're flying changes depending on temperature of the weather.
Oh, wow.
Right? So you might be burning more fuel if it's hotter versus less fuel if it's colder, or if you're depending on what altitudes you're at, right? So you're using all
So
these.
if you're
to
flying
figure
at a
it out.
lower altitude, are you using more or less fuel?
So if you're flying at a lower altitude, you're probably burning more fuel, right, than you are. Like air is more dense lower, then as you get higher, it becomes less dense.
Okay.
Right. But then depending on how fast you are, depending on the airplane itself, airplanes are also designed. Different airplanes are designed for different features. Some burn better at higher altitudes. Some burn better at lower altitudes. So you're taking all these things in consideration when you're flying.
Like fuel efficiency, that's all. Okay.
That's basically what it comes down to. It's all about fuel efficiency.
So it's not. So that's fuel efficiency doesn't also matters not just with cars but also with planes.
It does. Absolutely.
And people.
So that's why, it matters like how much luggage a plane takes.
Critical.
Oh, so
How heavy is your airplane?
So that's why they say only 2 pieces.
One check on, one carry on.
So-
and that goes true for a commercial airline. That doesn't
do
change.
they take into account, like, for instance, I know they can't say how they can't weigh everybody that comes onto a commercial airline, but do they take into because sometimes they say like they overbook a plane.
They do. They overbook that. Yeah, and I think that's for more their business reasons to make sure that they are full up. But you'll have some airplanes, you notice they'll say, okay, well every so often you'll hear someone say, well, we're overweight, so we need someone to come off the airplane, or we have.
I know with the smaller planes, because I know one time when I went to go visit Valerie down in Fort Leonard, like they were looking at like, okay, not so much with people, but the luggage, like how they were weighing, like really looking at.
Yes, and they'll even sometimes you might even see someone, a flight attendant might say, hey, we need someone to go to the back of the airplane.
Right.
Or we need someone to come forward.
Right.
Yeah, so that's all about weight and balance, which that goes true for a 777 as it would for a single engine. Technology today, though, there are a lot of airplanes now today. I can look up, in a 777 and see, okay, here's where my weight and balance is at. There's technology that shows that.
Okay.
So it's important.
And what is this?
Okay, so this is like the Bible for us when it comes to flying. This is an older edition. All of this now, technology is in place. So all of this now is on my phone.
Oh,
right?
really?
But,
Oh, okay.
But I wanted to show this is all the federal aviation regulations flying, the rules for flying, anything you want to know, the regs.
Regulations,
for flying,
regulations.
Right. Yep. And this is important. And so knowing what you need to fly, what you need to get your pilot's license, what you need to get a multi-engine license, a sea airplane license, a commercial airline, commercial pilot's airlines license.
I'm plotting my course.
He's getting ready. You're getting ready early.
How do you know what you're doing?
That was my next question. But hey, so far he's on the right track.
Okay.
Got lines here, so I line this up with this line, and then
Okay. All right. And what is this?
Okay, so these are headphones.
Okay.
Now these are for more single engine, or I should say turboprop airplanes that are a little bit more louder.
So that's when you're
for cover,
when
for
you're
the communicating. We use these. There are usually some type of a headset or a microphone in the airplane.
Those are not Beats by Dre.
No, no, these aren't Beats.
Okay.
They're better than Beats, actually.
Okay. All right.
They're probably just as expensive.
Are they expensive?
These are around $400. But
About the same.
yeah. So, but they have those out there that are $1,000. There's a nice bow set that's like $1,000. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So these don't run cheap.
Okay.
So, and you want to buy a good pair,
Right, of course.
to listen to. Because one thing you got to realize as a pilot, your ability to communicate is like paramount. But you're not always just talking to one person.
Right.
You learn to almost hear several different people at once. Like I might be listening to weather, I might be listening to another pilot, as well as I might be talking to an air traffic controller, all at the same time. And I need to be able to track what's going on around me, right? So having a good set of headsets is really critical.
Okay, all right. What is this? Since he's like plotting his course. What
Oh,
is
it's a map. I'm glad you asked. So
It is a map.
But what is all the information on this map?
Okay, so there's a ton of information on there. You could go through like a week just alone on what's on that map. So this is for what we call VFR pilots, visual flight rules, right?
Okay.
So this means that we use this type of map when we are flying. We have to stay clear of clouds and clear of buildings. That's what kind of VFR stands for. So we use this to fly from point A to point B. And essentially what even what Craig was doing earlier was you literally measure out your distances from each point, right? And then from there, once I know the distances, then I can convert or compute how much fuel do I need, right? And what other obstacles are in the way. When you're flying, you need to know, as you can see there, it can show you if there are antennas in the way, big buildings, mountains. Sometimes there are military airspace that's in the way. You can't fly through some of those depending on the situation. So that gives you all the knowledge you need to be able to safely arrive to your next destination.
Okay, all right. Well, we are going to stop because we are up against the break, and we will finish up with what you have here.
Okay.
And then we're going to talk about the safety equipment.
All right.
All right. Thank you, and we'll be right back.
Listen, you're my friend.
I noticed you haven't really been yourself recently.
Yeah, I feel like something's up.
How are you?
Are you okay?
Is there anything you want to talk about?
I just want to know how you're feeling.
And listen, even if you don't know what to say, I'm here to talk.
No matter what you're going through,
I just want you to know I'm here.
I've got your back. When you want to talk, I'm here.
Okay, so we're back and we're finishing up about the tools of the trade. And so here you were saying that this is.
Wait a minute, Vern.
What?
Before we move on, I have a question for you, and he's going to tell you if you're correct or not.
Okay.
All right. If Derek had to grab one thing out of his bag, what do you think he would grab?
What do I think he would grab?
Yeah, what's the most important piece?
I think.
You done told us what all this is.
Well, we didn't finish all of this yet.
Well, he told us what most of it is. What do you think he would grab? Don't be wrong. Come on.
I think the most important thing would be the flight crew checklist.
Is she correct?
No. Only, you're close though. That'd probably be the second thing I grab.
Okay.
Yeah. And the only reason why is because probably by this time I already know my airplane and know my checklist. The checklist is essential. It's vitally important.
Okay.
That'd probably be the second thing.
Yeah, that was the second thing. One more guess. Don't be wrong this time. Again, don't be wrong again.
This.
Yeah.
Of course. Good job.
Ha!
That'd be first.
Now, I was saying, so this you would do prior to taking off because you have to plan your whole flight out.
It is.
Had to
And
plan your flight.
no matter what you're flying, if you're a commercial airline pilot, private pilot, we all do this your flight planning.
Flight planning.
Flight planning is the most critical aspect of any flying. Like a lot of people just think you get up in a plane and fly. No, you've got to do some flight planning.
And you have to file your flight plan with somebody. Who do you have to file this before you take off, correct?
Yes and no. So you don't always have to file. It's a good idea for safety to file because if something happens, they know where you're at. But as a VFR pilot, I do not have to necessarily fly. Now in this area I do because you know we're around the White House and
well, what if something
different.
happened to you? Then what? Then you just
you're out if you didn't. Yeah, you come up short.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
But so it's not a requirement to, but it's highly advised that you do that. So pre-flight planning is huge in this aspect. Both this, when I'm flying as a flight engineer, those elements are like just critical.
So what are these things? I mean,
Okay.
obviously they're just.
So these are tools I use to measure like my distances,
like
right, from rulers or just like a regular ruler, point A to point B. You notice they're in like our aviation terms, so they're in nautical miles and knots and speeds, that kind of thing. Now this is really important, but you'll use this in training, like so we learn how to use this, and then after that, you know, now there's technology, computers, you know, we have all these on our phones and iPads.
But
and
it's like it's just like in school, like everybody has your different calculators and your different apps and stuff you can use. But when they go bad, it's like you still
you got to be able to go to basics.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And that's and that exactly where I'm leading to. You learn these type of items because sometimes things go bad on your plane. You know, your computer might go down, your navigations might go down. So this is what we call your flight computer. This is a manual way. With this, I can determine how much fuel I need based on what I did on my charts to find out like how far I can go before I need to land and refuel. Can I make it on, you know, one tank, which most airplanes that I fly about 4.5, 5 hours, right? And then on the other side, this is what we do wind directions with this. So now you have wind that compensates for you when you're flying, right? So a lot of people don't know when you're flying, that wind is also pushing you, right, as you're flying. So on the map, you think you're flying straight, but really you're almost flying right. So this allows you to compensate, like, okay, so how much do I need to compensate to get back to make sure I stay on track? So that's pretty much what this does.
People don't understand wind because even when you're running and you're jumping, like of course you know you have things that are wind aided and things of that nature, but even when you're jumping and stuff like that, you do have to account for wind.
Absolutely.
And it's people don't understand wind will
mess you up.
It mess you up.
It will.
It'll mess you up.
So if you don't know what you're doing, but here you can know how to use it for you, like so it's not used against you. As long as you know what you're doing. So that's why these elements are really important. These elements.
And just real quickly, this is just a directory of the airports that are in
Yeah, so
Maryland?
these are different. This is from Maryland. So these are just different airports that gives you information you need to know, like runway, what direction the runway is going in. You need to know that so you can properly align with that runway. If you have an airport that has a control tower, then that makes sure that you and the air traffic controller are on the same page when he's telling you you can land on runway 30 or 26.
You just can't be coming
can't
in
be
willy-nilly.
Yeah,
Can't be coming in hot all willy-nilly.
And then when you're landing, you land. Usually, we like to land against the wind. Excuse me. So you need to know what the wind directions are, so you can have an idea of, okay, if the wind's going this direction, I want to land in this direction.
Don't want to overshoot.
Now, we done planned. We done got our checklist and flight log. Wind kicked up, and the engine goes. Now what? Emergency procedures.
That's a real deal, and it's and it's important. I'm glad you brought that up. Flying is dangerous. All right, let's make sure we're clear about
Hold
that.
on, they say you have more of a chance of getting
in a car
accident than
and that's true.
And then something happened with the plane.
That's true.
Why you got to bring that up?
All right, because he said, "Dang, I need to know."
It is dangerous, but as long as you keep with these elements, you're clear about, all right, getting back into the math and sciences again. You know, you understand the performance of your aircraft. You know what your aircraft can do, what it can't do. Then you'll be okay.
So what do you have for emergencies? What
Okay, so
Parachute.
for emergency procedures, right?
flotation devices? What you got? I know you got some stuff.
Okay, so I'm gonna pull my
Flares.
emergency bag out. So this here and
Mayday!
right,
What does Mayday mean?
Mayday, I need help. Somebody
I
help
mean, is that an
find me.
acronym, Mayday?
Right.
Or?
No, Mayday is, I think that goes back to the World War, to the war
It's
days,
just not a
military.
day in May.
Yeah,
May.
it's just you need help, like SOS. I need some help. So this is my survival kit, and this is when I'm going and flying, especially out west. When you fly out west, now I got some things in here you got to be careful. I'm gonna get y'all ready. Y'all got to get prepared. But when you're flying out west, you fly over deserts,
Why
right?
not something out east?
And well, east I still fly with this,
Okay.
but you got people
it's
around,
more
right? It's more
urban,
urban,
okay.
right? But out west, you fly out of deserts, terrain, so it gets a little rough. So if you get in trouble, all right, we're gonna set right. We know what this is. You recognize this. So if you need to use the bathroom,
Okay. They got something for females?
they do. They do. They have
got
something for free.
They
They
got
do have something for
female-specific
females.
bags?
Actually, the only thing that's different is the one that's for the female. It's got a little cup that comes out instead of
Well, at least
right,
they look out
right,
for
that's the
females.
one. They do,
like
So
that.
we got all kind of stuff in here. So my first aid kit, right? And if I have to, let's say I have to make an emergency landing, I might be in a place where it might take a while for someone to come get me, right? So so I have a tube tent, right? Got a tube tent,
Okay.
whistles,
Whistle.
got a knife.
Nice.
Yeah, rope.
Rope.
Right. This is all really, really important handy stuff. Like light stick. Like the ones you do on the roller coaster and when you go to the roller rink back in the day.
Oh.
And you break them and
Okay, you know what? I'm gonna stop you right
You
here
gonna stop me right
because
here?
we got a minute left, and this is
Yeah, I
good
could go on
stuff.
for-
I know, and we want to get everything that's in here, so we're gonna stop right here. I know Gregory gonna want to look at this and make his little comments. So when we come back, we gonna get to more. We're gonna get to more of this stuff. And you know what? This is good. They always talk about preparedness, especially after all this, all the natural disasters we be having. So we might want to make our own little survival kit
After the break.
after the break. We'll be right back.
Fast-paced family life in need of a slowdown?
Hello, I'm Dr. Spruce. Did you know all those green shapes on maps are parks and forests? It's true. Visit discovertheforest.org and plan to visit a park or forest near you, instead of just wondering what it would have been like.
While the word forest might make you think of distant lands from far, far away, please note parks and forests are closer than you think, which means things like beautiful scenery, fresh air, and family time are also closer than you think.
I already knew that I was going to go to college, from a young age. I definitely want to major in political science, become the mayor or something, make the situation better for other people. My name is Justin, and I am your dividend.
So we were walking to school.
I started thinking about lunch. Mom packed me turkey and cheese.
She's
I really want
smart.
cheese pizza.
Sometimes her mind wanders.
We should have a sleepover.
I remember saying, Laura?
I think I heard Mom say something.
The sign says don't walk.
Sometimes it's so overwhelming.
I really hope she doesn't
I
have
really
another
hope I
bad
don't
day
have
at
another
school
bad day
today.
at school today.
When you can see learning and attention issues from their side, you can be on their side. Go to understood.org, a free online resource with support and tools to help your child thrive.
Okay, Derek. It's one of three things. You're either a lucky man, you plan very well, or you got a really good pre-flight ritual. Because what it looks like, you had no emergency. All this stuff is brand new. You ain't used none of it.
Well, I have a second bag. Now I'm blessed.
Okay.
I haven't had to use this yet. Thank
Okay.
God. No, I have not been able
What
to.
else you got in it?
But so I know I have some food.
What
Right?
kind of food?
So this is actually like just dried nutrients. Yeah, it's hard as a rock, tastes terrible, but
U.S. Wait a minute.
but it
Is it
gives you the
nutritious?
nutrients you need.
Okay.
Yeah,
I need my
that you
glasses.
need to be able to
What it
survive.
say?
Yeah, the Coast Guard uses
Emergency
this,
food
Navy
rations.
uses
MREs,
this.
meals ready to
Yeah,
eat.
it's like-
Emergency food rations.
Rations.
What is it?
And all this is one big hard block of almost like a block of flour that's just hardened.
So you got to throw water on it to rehydrate it?
No, you can actually eat it just like that. You eat it just like that. you know, but it's got like, you know, 5,000 calories in it. So, you know, if you had to have an emergency landing somewhere, that'll like tide you over for, they say like it's supposed to be for a good couple of weeks. Yeah. I hope never to test that theory. Though,
Absolutely no cholesterol or tropical oils.
You need
That's
my
right.
glasses too. They right over there.
Withstands temperatures of 22 degrees Fahrenheit.
That's right. That's good stuff. And then if you do have other food, I got like emergency stove, right?
Oh man, I want to open this. I want to see it.
And then emergency radio, that kind of thing, you know. And then I even finally.
Can I get serious?
I get just their own bag of water in case you don't have a water source for emergency.
Nice.
So
5-year shelf life.
that's good. So these are items that I take with me. Not every pilot does this, but I think it's about being
Can you
prepared.
get this stuff like commercially, like
Absolutely.
retail? Because you know they're always talking about how you got to get your preparedness bag and stuff like that. I'm thinking like, you know, I need to get my bag together.
And quiet as it kept, this kind of doubles as my bag. If there was an emergency preparedness, I would just grab this bag
Like during
and roll.
like
yeah.
if Hurricane Harvey
Absolutely.
had, you could get that stuff.
Because this is basically all the emergency essentials you need regardless, you know, and any type of emergency, these are the things that you want to have.
Hey, if you happen to be, well, not to say if you happen to be, but hopefully you are watching us. You know, maybe if you see these things, you're thinking about yourself like, hey, I need to go check this out so I can put my little bag together. Because you know what, quiet is kept. You know, this stuff isn't, you know, it doesn't consume a lot of space.
No, it doesn't. There's a lot of stuff you can put all in this little
Right,
bag.
and I didn't
It's not heavy.
Yeah, I didn't test your bag out when it was all packed, but it didn't seem like it seemed to be very heavy. You know?
Yeah, it works fair.
And if you're a person like me who's single and you don't have other people to be concerned about, you know,
Batteries in here too.
batteries.
Oh yeah, your gloves and some
Gloves.
poncho.
Oh yeah, gloves, flashlight,
Yeah.
poncho,
I don't have a survival kit. I'm gonna put one together.
poncho. Do more than one poncho,
I
mask.
don't really find.
Wait a minute, you got a family. You got a lot of people.
I'm safe in the house.
No, but I'm saying this is a small enough survival kit.
2018.
No, but you can make a one for everyone. I mean, this is small enough. You could definitely make one for everyone in your family. And it doesn't, I mean, I don't know how much each individual item costs, but it doesn't seem like it's too expensive.
No, I can't remember how much that. And that all came as one kit. I didn't have to put that together. I
Right.
bought that as a pack. So.
Well,
Yeah.
we're going to have to talk
What
after.
blanket is this?
Oh, that's one of those aluminum type
Yeah.
blankets. Is that like, you know, you
Keep
see
you warm.
It's like you see
This
those.
keeps you warm.
Yeah, it's one of those blankets that you see like after the marathons that they put on.
They
Yeah,
put on
no, those
afterwards.
are warm.
They're very warm.
Really?
Yes,
Yeah.
they are. Yes, they are. I can attest to that. We're gonna have to talk.
How can you attest to it?
Because
You use one?
well, I wouldn't say it if I didn't. We're gonna have to talk after the show and see where it can be purchased.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Where'd you use it at?
Don't you worry about it. I'm not gonna speak on something I don't know about.
Oh, true. How far to that?
Yeah. Stop. I saw that.
Oh,
So anything else you can tell us about, like, as a pilot, like anything about more emergency type things that you have to, you have to use, or things that a pilot needs to know about?
Well, I think it's important to note that your flight training,
Mm-hmm.
you are going to go through emergency procedures as a flight training. Like we
Oh,
learn
what about
how to
if you
do
have
stalls
to bail out
and-
over water?
and- Now, usually
Is
we
that
don't
part of
bail out because we don't have parachutes. Well, unless you have a plane that has parachutes. Right now, most single engines don't. It takes up too much space, heavy weight. You know.
What if
And-
something happens over water?
But really, you don't have to, and this is why. This is actually a very good question, because your plane glides, right? So you are trained as a pilot. Let's say, I'm up, 8,000 feet in the air, and then I lose my engine.
What if it's
Well,
Chesapeake Bay?
I'm not going straight down. I have a glide factor that I take into consideration, right? So I now, as a pilot, you're trained. All right, I just lost my engine. Where can I land?
Okay.
Can I land on a grass strip? Is there a runway or airport nearby? So I'm looking to where I can actually put down. And 9 times out of 10, if you practice and you're a good pilot and you're vigilant, you can land on the ground safely.
And normally you shouldn't be flying over that large body of water anyway, should you? Correct?
No. Well, you can.
But should you be?
Typically, they tell you the recommendation, is to have a multi-engine airplane to fly over water.
So in other words, if you have a single engine plane, you should not be flying a route that takes you over that large body of water for that long a time. Where that if something should happen like that, you would be in that type of situation, in other words?
Correct. You shouldn't, but...
Like Mama said, I told you, you shouldn't be flying over there anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why you over there anyway type of thing.
So parachutes are heavy. Didn't know that.
Parachutes are really heavy, but if you look, the Spirit of St. Louis, he flew over, over a whole large body of water. So it can be done.
So should he have been there?
Yeah, well, he made it.
But should he have been there?
We might not be where we are today if he hadn't.
But should he have been there is the question.
I don't know if that's for me to answer.
Yes, he should.
Yeah, go for it.
Because Derek said if he wasn't there, we wouldn't have been here now. So yes, he should.
Sounds to me he should not have. He did something he shouldn't have, and it just happened to have worked out for him. Mm-hmm.
That's a good perspective. I think right now the regulations state that if you could fly over water, then they want you to have at least a flotation device on board. If because you can glide safely on the water if you know what you're doing, and do an emergency landing, and then be able to get your flotation device out, and then you're good. Hopefully, So, would I do it? Yes, I would to a certain degree. Like if you go down to Florida, the Bahamas are only in a single engine, maybe a 45-minute trip. So the way I've even planned it, I haven't done it yet, but I will, is I'll take off, go up to about maybe 10, 11,000 feet. And then by the time I get to 10, 11,000 feet, if I lost my engine, well, I'm already at the halfway point where I will be able to see the island, and I could actually glide down.
But you want to make sure that your plane has a flotation device.
Absolutely. I always follow the rules and regulations.
Exactly.
Of
That's what I'm saying.
Aviation Administration.
You want to make sure you follow the rules and regulations. That's what I'm saying. You're not going to put yourself out there without, the proper emergency equipment. That's what I'm saying. Like, to be out there without the proper emergency equipment would be the height of lunacy.
It would be. And there are pilots so they do it. I don't recommend it. Just being safe. My job is, look, when I take off, I will get down on the ground safely, one way or the other. So what do I need to do to make sure that I accomplish that? And that's my thinking. And there are pilots that
he's
having fun with the emergency stove.
Yeah, this looks kind of small.
It's not so.
It gets real hot.
Does it?
It does. I have used one.
I find that hard to believe.
It gets
just
real
like
hot.
that blanket. I find that hard to believe.
now?
Have you used one of these, Ron?
I've seen them being used before.
Did it get hot?
They do their job. I mean, it's just for an emergency. It's not like
you ain't got no pot in the bag.
It's not.
There's a pot that I can carry. You have those little aluminum container pots. You can put soup in it, and water, and boil water, that kind of thing.
Oh, you have one of those in there?
Yeah. I don't have one there with me, actually. It's not in that bag, but I keep it with me.
Does one of those pots come in that bag?
No, you actually buy that separate. It's a separate one.
Oh, see, so it's not complete.
Yeah. I figure they did a pretty good job.
No, I figure they did too. And you can get those at the camping store.
You can.
You can.
Yeah, you can find those. Most of those you can put together yourself.
Right.
That's just a bag that has everything else you needed. But all those things you can find at items.
Yeah, you can find
it's at regular stores yourself.
Gregory would find the one thing.
What's the most important thing in the bag, Veronica?
The water is the most important thing.
Is that right, Derek?
That's a good question. I would probably agree. Well, you need
water
water.
is. You cannot live
Can't
without
live
water.
without water.
Cannot live without. And you as a health teacher should know. But now that we've answered that question, let's now, we've talked about a lot of stuff. But as a young person who's watching this show, hopefully, what advice would you give to them if they wanted to become, their you,
Right,
back when
in the
you
day.
and they want to become a pilot?
Well, I think it's an incredible opportunity for them today because there's so much more out there today that they have at their fingertips that they might not realize than what I had back in the day. So one thing I would look at is there are many organizations out there to help you get your pilot's license, such as Silver Air Patrol, which does help. You know, Silver Air Patrol is awesome. And they teach you the whole basics of they teach aerospace education. You know, they're going to give you the full roundabout ideas and aspects of flying to make you a really good pilot. But go to your local your flying schools. Most airports have a local flying school, and they will have an introductory program, and usually it costs anywhere from $45, $60, whatever. But the idea is they'll take you up flying to see if it's something you're interested in. At least get your feet wet. There are other organizations. The Experimental Aviation Association (EAA) has a program called the Young Explorers Program, and they take kids up for about 20 minutes free, no charge.
I've heard of them.
And there's EA programs all over the place. You just go online, research them. They're a nonprofit organization, and usually they are doing some type of young explorers aviation at some airport, and they'll take students up for about 20 minutes for the same reason, to see, get them introduced to flying and the elements of flying, and see if that's something they might be interested in. And it's important to know too that there's so much more. You don't just have to be an airline pilot, right? Maybe you want to fly. You can just be a private pilot like me. You can fly for the customs. You can fly for the military. You can fly for the Coast Guard. You can fly for private industry, or you might want to be a meteorologist, right? Like there's so many other aspects to flying. There are many meteorologists that people aren't aware of. They're also pilots out there. You can be a lawyer. I mean, you can be an engineer. I mean, don't just limit yourself to, all right, yeah, I don't want to be an airline pilot, but I like to fly. But because of that, I can't make a career. There's always a career you can do. You can do.
Yeah, there's so many companies. Like you can work for Boeing, Lockheed Martin.
Yeah,
I mean, there's so many things that you can get into. So just think about it. Even start into your school, like in middle school, get into those STEM.
The STEM programs are huge.
Right.
And that's really important. Don't fall shy of the math and sciences.
Right.
I did that, and I'm blessed. I'm really blessed because it worked out well for me. But I didn't think about all those things when I'm in grammar school, middle school. So I'll tell young, aspiring teenagers, don't fall short. Keep into the math, keep into the sciences. It's really, really important, because you don't want to look back, and say, "Dag, I wish I coulda, shoulda, woulda," and then you fall shy, and then you're trying to catch up, like I did.
If you did, it's never too late.
Right.
And we have to leave it off right now. But thank you so much,
Thank you.
Mr. White.
Appreciate that.
It has been a tremendous time interview. Gregory, you got any last words?
Be looking for me in the friendly sky.
All right, I'll do that.
I'm coming
I'll
up
do
there
that.
with you.
Let's go.
All right.
Let's go.
Thank you so much, Mr. White.
Thank
We
you.
have enjoyed you.
It's been awesome being here.
It's
Great
been
time.
great.
Thank you.
And as we like to say, see you in the friendly skies, right?
Deuces.
Deuces.
Deuces.